It's fun for me. I like answering questions. So with that, I am going to start sharing my screen and get started. All right. Okay, so what you're looking at is a demo platform. Essentially, it's going to work exactly the same as your login with Rainbow will, but it allows me as an employee to demo and show you some stuff that's active in the system. So if there's something weird that pops up, I'll let you know. That might be a little bit different, but for the most part, should look exactly the same. And I'm going to do a really brief overview. As all of you here likely know, Rainbow is for restaurants. We write restaurants. It's what we do. We have, and as we go through the platform today, we're going to show you how broad and amazing of an appetite it is that we have with restaurants. But that's really what it is that we want you to think anytime you get a restaurant submission is Rainbow for restaurants, right? So we write on Accelerant paper. We're structured as an MGA. Many of you probably know Accelerant. They've been around for a while. They're very well known and well liked in the industry. If you don't happen to, they are A- excellent, admitted market, AM best rated, so size 9. And they've been a phenomenal partner for us. That's who we place all of our business through currently. And, there are some things that we refer to them and, we work in partnership with them on underwriting on occasional. But for the most part, as an MGA, we're doing everything. It's all of our filings, it's the products that we've built. It is, it's all of our underwriting as Nippon and Adrian are so amazing at. And it's our team that are here to support and take care of you. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions about it, we're happy to answer them because Accelerant has been an amazing partner. All right, so then what you're looking at here with this, we write a bot product primarily, and then we actually just recently rolled out an excess as well. So you're not. I don't think I have any excesses to demo on this just yet, but we have excess in the majority of our states, and I will show you that here in just a moment as well. But when you first log in, you're going to be taken to your policy screen where you're going to be able to take care of all sorts of different things. There's a lot of self-service in here, and we will continue to update and create even more ways for you to self-serve your policies. Right. So two main things to see is whether it's got an active status or this payment overdue. Obviously, that's there to just kind of flag you so that you know that if the insured is behind on payments. When you want to get in and see some details about the policy, you would click this little arrow right here. And it takes you to a brief overview where you can get policy documents if you click into it and download them. You can request an endorsement, which takes you to a form to fill out that comes to me and my team, or sometimes the underwriters as well. And just make sure that you're putting in your description, selecting the type of additional insured you want, all that. But all of this should be here for you. If you need to, for some reason, cancel a policy because the insured closed their business, we've got the option for you to upload a lost policy release, an LPR. So there's all kinds of stuff here. It's a really simple form, but you should have everything that you need from that, and you can self-serve from within it. We ask that you give us a couple of days to get your response, but usually we try to get back to you same day with your endorsements. If you want to file a claim as well, this takes you directly to our third-party claims adjuster. NARS, North American Risk Services, right? So they've been really great to work with. So far, all I've ever heard from them is from our insureds and our agents is that they've been phenomenal to work with. They're very responsive. They're easy to get started with. So this is one way that you can get in contact with them for that first notice of loss. Another is on your policy doc. The very first page is their call information, email, all the different ways in which you can get a hold of them for any sort of claims needs for you or and your insured. All right, so we're going to skip quote screen for right now. Settings is pretty straightforward. Change your name, email address, set a new password, pretty typical stuff. And then resources is something that I always love to take a moment to brag on Morgan for. Morgan has done a phenomenal job of making sure that you have everything that you need here, right? So all kinds of stuff, not just for you, but for your insured as well. So if they want some sort of cooking temps, they want, closing and opening checklists, all kinds of stuff. A lot of restaurants have that established, but maybe it's a brand new restaurant, which, by the way, Rainbow loves to write. So they could use this kind of information and they would love to have that. And it's a nice way for you as an agent to be able to provide that for them as well. And then we've got stuff for you and your agency with a simple SEO strategy guide, all kinds of other stuff. But what's more important than anything else, sorry, Morgan, I don't know if you necessarily feel this way. What I think is more important than anything else is the Rainbow Appetite Guide, right? chat in, talk to us. We're happy to answer anything. But honestly, this is a very extensive guide that we've put together so that I'm not going to try to read anything off of this. I just want to show you how robust it is. And it talks about different things like, hey, we're ineligible for dance floors, or if they have if they offer hookah, we can't do that. The other day I came in here and looked something up, even though I've been here for a while, and you would think I would know it all at this point, but clearly do not. There was something that I looked up, and now that I'm on the spot, I'm not going to remember it. But you can see like PC 9 and 10 is out for us. Like there's all kinds of good stuff, but then also like everything that's available, the limits, that kind of thing. So definitely make sure that you're familiarizing yourself with this, or at least have it handy so that you can grab it. And then another thing that I like to show for a moment is this NFPA cheat sheet, right? So I'm not going to take any time to talk about this just yet because we're going to come across it as we go through the demo. However, know that this is here within the agency resources because it's something that we as folks who, well, and I mean, maybe some of y'all run restaurants, but I don't run a restaurant. So I don't know what the National Fire Protection Association's guidelines are for how often hoods and vents should be cleaned and everything in order to make it safe. So that's what this is here for. Our underwriting checks that to make sure that, for instance, if it is wok cooking, cleaning is being done at least quarterly. And I'll show you how that correlates as you go through our quoting process too. But just know that you're not expected to have all that memorized. The insured should know it. It's standard practice that they keep up with the NFPA. However, this is here for you as an agent so that you can keep up with that knowledge as well. All right. So the quote screen. Oh no, it fell out of draft. Okay, so that's fine. It'll work just fine how it is. So here, typically you would see one. I try to have set up that shows that it's bindable, right? And there are two circumstances in which that can happen. We have an awesome online platform where you can go beginning to end and never talk to a single one of us if you don't want to. You can quote from start to finish, get it, bind it, and be good to go. And in that case, when you've started the quote and maybe you've reached out to the insured for payment information, you're just getting that final confirmation, you will see that there's a bindable status. The other way that this can happen is if it gets referred to one of our underwriters, right? And then they come back, they review it, and they send it back to you. They'll email you when they do, and they'll say, hey, this is good to go. And then the status will be changed here and it will show bindable. It will no longer show referred, right? So that's the two ways that you can get to bindable. If it's draft, that means that there's something that hasn't been filled out that still needs to be done. And this action required refer now is really important to point out. So here's the idea behind this. We realize that we can't just have a rigid system where it's beginning to end tech and you never have any exceptions. You can't talk about pricing. There are some of our competitors in the market who do that. And honestly, we think that this is better this way, that you can interact with our agents, that we've got Nippon and Adrian on a call where you can see their faces and say hello to them, and you know who it is that you're going to be emailing back and forth with. You know who it is that's going to be taking a look at your risk, right? So the reason that this is so important, though, is that we don't refer this over to them until you say you're ready for that, right? So you'll see this big click refer now to request a manual review. Refer now, you'll get the reasons why it's being referred. This establishment's class of business needs to be confirmed by an underwriter, right? So all the information is here at your fingertips. Just know, very importantly, they're not going to take a look at it until you click that refer now button. And the reason for that is maybe you've gone through this process and you don't know that you're ready to have us take a look at it yet. Maybe you need to check in with the insured and make sure that everything is up to date. Maybe you want to, you just wanted to get an indication on the market for around where Rainbow would be at. All of these reasons are reasons why you may not have clicked refer yet. So we don't look at it until you've clicked that button. It sends it over to us. And then usually we try to get back to you same day. Now, depending on how busy we are, whether or not people are out of office, that kind of thing, it may take a day to whatever the case may be. But typically we try to get back to you same day if at all possible. So just know that if you haven't heard from us, there's a good reason that that's probably why. Double check to make sure that you have actually clicked to refer that. All right, so we're gonna go back to dashboard and we're gonna hop into one that I know is mostly finished. Oh, and once you click to refer it, this will change from action required for now. It'll just say referred. That'll all be, and then it'll stay in that status until you hear back from us and you get the okay or the declination, right? So there's also a declination, there's expired. I'll show this when we get to that point of, effective date, but our quotes are good for 60 days. So just keep that in mind. If you quote further out than 60 days, you may run into this issue where it's expired. And obviously that's a safety measure to know that our quotes are not, just available in perpetuity, right? But if you need some exceptions to that, if you need us to make some adjustments, it's a couple of days off and you just need it reopened, we can do that. Just reach out through the chat. Okay, so draft. I'm heading into this draft. All right, so I'm not gonna actually, you know what? I'm sorry, y'all. Let me take a real quick second. When you're ready to start a brand new quote, this is actually the button that you're gonna click down here, right? This big green start a new quote button. We have a new feature, and this is why I almost skipped over it. I'm glad I didn't almost skip over it. We have a brand new feature that we just built into the system, right? And this can be a little bit confusing at first, so I'm gonna take a moment to really highlight it, right? All of our online platform is single location only. Now, we write multi-locations on it all the time, but the way that we do that is by each one having an individual policy, right? So we find that the best practice is if your insured has 5 or less locations, to still go ahead and click on that single location, and that'll take you in. It'll add a designated premises exclusion on your policy so that it's clear that this policy is just for that one location. But then you've got 5 separate quotes that will cover each one of those individually. Now, we don't expect that you're going to go through and put all that in for a 200 location policy, right? So we've created this option because we still want to take a look at some of those risks for multi-location. And what this does is it bridges out to a form and just some explanation of what it is that we're looking for. And you notice how I talked about 5 locations or less, I think is in here somewhere, 5 or fewer separate locations, right? We really kind of go through all this stuff. So nobody expects you to necessarily memorize it, but it really is not just for our own sake and the fact that this all has to be reviewed offline. It's manual. It takes a lot of extra time. That's why we ask for 7 to 10 days, sometimes even a couple weeks or more if you're able to give it to us. It's going to be easier for you to just go through online and fill it all out for each individual location if it's less than 5 anyhow, because you'll see I talk a lot. So the process takes a little while, but honestly, it takes less than 10 minutes to fill out a quote. So it's easier than going back and forth, filling out all of the spreadsheet and everything for the multi-location. But we still love those large risks, and we want to give you an avenue to bring them to us. All right, so when you start a new quote, you'll click single location in most cases, and then you'll fill out this information. If for some reason you ever need to change any of this, the only thing that can't be changed is the location address. We have some data points that get grabbed off of that. So just know that typically with a location address, unless it's some sort of a typo or something, it's going to need to be like regenerated. You'll have to create a new quote. You certainly don't want to bind with the incorrect address. But just know that any of the rest of the stuff, you may not be able to hit the back button to go to it, but you just chat in really quick and me or my team will take care of that for you. All right, but I'm not going to show you the process of going through all this. I'll show you a completed quote so you don't have to watch me type. Last thing to point out on the screen, though, is the contact email. Definitely make sure that you are using your insured's email and not a fake email. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. Just be assured that we are strictly writing through agents. We don't do any sort of direct-to-consumer marketing. We don't do any sort of direct-to-consumer writing at all. If I have had maybe 2 insureds come and ask in my entire career here if I could help them place a policy. And the answer is, where are you at? Let me locate you with one of our Rainbow agents, right? So just know that this contact email in here is so that we can give them the same notice that we're giving you as well. If there's a late payment, if we've got a notice on something, that's what it is that we use. But it also creates an account for them so that they can get in and download their policy docs. If your agency doesn't collect payment information, it gives them the option to go in and add that. They can catch their payments up if they're behind. So there's a lot of really good things that they can do simply with an email address and a login then that's created off that email address. And you definitely don't want to just use, a fake email at email.com or something. Yahoo, MSN, Google, they're all free. So just grab them a quick email address and add that in. All right. Enough rambling. Let's go to quotes. Okay, cool. So this very first page just gets right out of the gate with a lot of information in it, right? We can write just about everything in this list with a couple of exceptions, right? Brew pubs are pretty new for us, so we're going to be looking at those individually as they come in, but we would love to see your submissions for those. We are not a home for bars and taverns, nor are we a home for mobile food vendors or warehouse exposures. All right, and there's caveats to each of those, right? So our definition of a bar and tavern is probably different than what you're used to in the market. We can do up to 65% in alcohol sales. And just because they have the name Jason's Bar and Grill is not an automatic kick out for us, right? We want to know, like, are they doing the kind of things that a bar does do? And we'll cover that here in just a moment. But for a quick sneak peek, do they have a happy hour after 8 p.m.? Are they serving alcohol after midnight? Are there door bouncers and live concerts, right? Like, we're checking all of these things. That's how we determine if it is actually a bar, instead of just, does it have bar in the name or how much alcohol do they sell, right? So we really try to broaden that out and pick up those restaurants who other markets might reject simply just on face value instead of actually getting to know those insureds, right? Just know that bars and taverns are in and of themselves out of appetite. We don't have the coverages for mobile food vendors. So we can't write the auto, we can't write all the different things that they need, so they're out of appetite for now too. And then warehouse is a little bit tricky because we can do ghost kitchens and we can do commissaries. We just want to make sure that we're writing the risk for the one who's selling the food. We don't want to be part of the manufacturing chain. So that's why warehouses are out, because we don't want that sort of storage. We don't want part of the chain. We want the individual who's preparing and serving the food themselves. All right. But wine bars, full service, casual, all of that is good for us. We love all of those things, right? Okay, so does the applicant operate multiple locations? This is kind of what I touched on a little bit ago. Even if you're going here for the single location and you know that they've got three, you're going to put in three separate ones, still click yes, and you'll just get this little checkbox that says, hey, just as an acknowledgement that there's a designated premises on there. That's all the more it does. It's not a rating or anything like that. It's just a checkbox to make sure you're aware we're adding that endorsement. Any claims in the last 3 years, not necessarily a kick out. We just asked for a little bit more detail. We want to make sure it's not over 50,000. And, we'll ask some questions on it. We don't ask you for loss runs immediately. Now, if there are some claims history, if there's something about the risk that we want to see, Nippon, Adrian, they'll reach out to you and they'll let you know, right? Just know that you don't have to upload them here in the file. You don't have to collect them ahead of time. If you happen to have them already, like, that helps, obviously, if we ask for them, but we don't ask for them on every risk. We just ask for them on ones that we review and feel the need to take a look at those as well. We want to make sure the owner's not a criminal. That's pretty self-evident. Does the establishment have stairs? Not a problem. We just want to make sure they're using proper safety. This is what I talked about, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time. Take a moment to look through all this and just know that one of the things that we're very proud of here at Rainbow is our flexibility, right? Like Adrian, Nippon, Andrew, Mike, Bill, all of our underwriters are here to help get these risks placed, right? So if you have somebody who is open past midnight, but they don't sell alcohol, for instance, we've written some 24-hour establishments, and we can possibly take a look. If they're in a small town in the middle of nowhere that every drink is under $4, right? Like, we want to hear that story. We want you to tell us about it so that we can still possibly take a look at it, because then we might discount that and say, like, okay, well, are they still primarily a restaurant, and look at some other factors. Now, there are certain things that we're probably not going to, if they have a door bouncer, it's still probably never going to be a fit. But just know that, like, some of these activities, some of these different things, like, we're still happy to take a look. If you want to reach out to us and share your story, we love that kind of stuff. And we've intentionally built a very flexible system to work with you on that. If there's a playground on premises, not a problem, same as the stairs. We just want to make sure that it's safe. So definitely take a minute to read through that and make sure that it fits our appetite. This is just double checking again with the food truck, but it's also talking about the ghost kitchen, virtual brand out of the insured location. So just know that, like I said, a food truck is out, but we can consider some of these other things too. So this is just kind of an opportunity for us to understand the risk a little bit better. Fire alarm, burglar alarm, security cameras, 60 fat fryers. It's pretty self-explanatory. Are they responsible for the parking lot? This is just a rating question, yes or no. Like, we're still happy to take a look at it. Okay, so this is what I talked about earlier with the NFPA guidelines as well. Are there any of the following types of cooking performed? Every once in a while I get asked, like, oh, does that mean that wok is out, charboiling is out? No, not at all. We just want to make sure that if they are doing wok cooking, that they are at least cleaning quarterly, right? And that's what that little cheat sheet will tell you, so that you can know just as much as your insured should know that this is the NFPA guideline, and that's what we're double checking for, right? So just keep in mind that that's how that correlates, and go and grab that document. There it is right there, that we lay it out nice and clear for you what the different types of cooking are, what it is that we expect for the timing of the cleanings, and there's lots of really great information here. All right, now I got to find the tab again. There it is. Okay. Any renovations? Just because there are does not mean that we're not a home either. Obviously, we don't write inland marine. Like I said earlier, we do BOPs and we do excess products, right? So we're not going to be your builder risk home. However, if they're doing some light renovations, they need a policy before grand opening and they're just changing some stuff up on the inside a little bit, like we are still more than happy to take a look. So read through these. Underwriting qualifications, and there's still a very good chance that even if they're doing some light renovation, we're still happy to look at them. Is the establishment cash only? This is definitely a hard decline. However, I will say I always use this story because it happened one time and now I finally have a story with it. I did have somebody reach out and say like, well, what if they accept checks? The big thing that we're looking for here is that they have a point of sale system, right? A POS system that they are logging their sales in and they're not just moving cash underneath the counter, right? Like that's what it is that we're trying to protect against here with this question. So reach out if for some reason you have any questions about it. Know that cash only is a hard decline for us, but if they're doing something like checks and they have a POS, like let us know, we'll take a look, and there's a chance that we may still be able to consider it. All right, number of employees is simple. How many days they're open? When did it open? Like I mentioned earlier, we love brand new establishments. We got no issue with them. But just know that you'll get an extra pop-up question if it's brand new. We want to make sure that the management has at least 3 years of experience. And if you're noticing a theme as you kind of go through, as we go through this, like we have built a really sophisticated system that like understands what it is that we're looking for. And if we have to ask you more questions based off of things, we've got a system that can understand to ask you that, right? So if for some reason we're not asking you whether or not there's, years of experience of management, it's because we don't need to know because the establishment's been open long enough, right? So it's really neat how all of this kind of plays in together, and I'll show you some ways in which that works down the road as well. All right, maximum occupancy, business owner structure, all that's pretty standard. And again, please interrupt me if you have any questions, but I'm going to try to skip some of the basic stuff. All right, estimated annual sales, we can do up to 10 mil in sales per location, right? Because again, as a reminder, these are single location policies on the web form. Select your GL limits. Okay, so this one is a fun one to answer because we now have that excess product. What you'll see on occasion, I think it gets removed sometimes. Y'all might correct me on this. We're working on like how to present it in the UI, but we have an option of 2-4. When we partnered with Accelerant, they knew that we wanted to add some of those higher level limits for restaurants because restaurants commonly need them. Not every restaurant does, but if they have a landlord agreement, if they required it on their previous policy and they want to carry it forward, there's a number of different reasons why they may need 2-4 limits. So when we first launched, Accelerant was like, yes, we can offer that to you, but send it to us. We want to take a double look before you go ahead and bind that. In the states, however, in the states in which we offer excess, that has replaced the 2-4 limits, right? So let's pull that up. So we have great availability, all kinds of green states here. We're coming to the blue ones here very soon. And the rest of them, don't worry, we hope to be in those one day as well. But the excess liability, you can see we're in most of those the same as BOP as well. There's just a handful of key ones, and in particular, Virginia, North Carolina, and California more than any because we get a lot of California business, right? So know that those 2-4 limits are still available in these blue states. However, if it is a green state, we are writing an excess product instead. We can do up to 3 mil over our own GL and up to 1 mil over our own liquor liability. We can handle that in-house, right? And there'll be an opportunity for you to fill that out down the road if that's what it is that you want to add. All right, off-premises catering, not a problem. Like I said, we can do even up to 100% catering. We just might have a few questions for you and need to review it. But that said, we can potentially be a home for that. That box goes away if there's no catering, though. Does the establishment serve alcohol? Okay, so like I mentioned, one of our biggest selling points is that we can do up to 65% in alcohol sales, right? So up to 65 here and you'll be good to go. But what's really another one of these like neat little drop downs is that we offer assault and battery up to 50% or lower in alcohol sales automatically. It's just automatically included, right? So any amount that I put in here, like the 30 I had previously, you're not going to get any questions about assault and battery because it's just inherently there. Now, as soon as I go from 50 to 51, it will pop up with some questions about whether or not you want to add it. So we do still offer assault and battery. It's just not automatically included between 51% and 65% in alcohol sales. So know that if you're not seeing it, why isn't it here? There's a good chance it could be because your alcohol sales just aren't high enough that we're having you elect to add it. Instead, it's just automatically included. Then you get to choose whether or not you want liquor liability coverage. We want to make sure that they're following all the serve safe and tips and all that other stuff. Our liquor liability limits are separate than our GL, right? So you'll want to select that limit from this list as well. We can offer HNOA coverage too, unless they do self-delivery. So that's pretty standard. I feel like most of you are going to realize that. It's really hard to find anybody who does self-delivery in the admitted market with HNOA. If they do self-delivery, we can still write the policy. We just won't be a home for the HNOA. That's the only thing. Third-party delivery is perfectly fine, though. No third-party delivery is great, too. Robotic delivery, however, we're not interested in. Yeah, I always struggle with something to say because it's not something that I'm familiar with. I guess it's in college towns. The few times that I've seen have been in the airport, and I always thought it was really neat. But nobody's going to like knock over an airport robot and steal all the food out of it. Like it's the other locations that have been a bit of an issue over history. So look up some videos if you're curious. That's what I had to do, and it was a little entertaining, but at the same time, like you can kind of understand, like, all right, well, that's probably why they don't want to write robotic delivery. Third-party delivery, not a problem though. All right. So frame all the way to fire resistive. We can consider any of it. Just make sure that you're electing. If you ever have any questions, reach out to us through chat, through email to underwriting@userainbow.com. We're happy to help you. Obviously, we're not out at your insured's location, but there's lots of information that lives out on the internet now with pictures on Google and all kinds of stuff that we can try to help make that determination of what kind of frame or, joist and masonry or whatever it is. When was the year built? We don't necessarily have any restrictions on age. As far as when the year was built. What we're more looking for is when it was most recently updated, right? So when was the roof replaced? It needs to have been within the last 20 years on all roof types except for metal, in which case it can be up to 30 years, right? So down here's that question about roof types. If I was to select metal, it would be fine all the way up to 30. However, you will get a declination if it's 20 or less. Reach out to us and chat. Like there are times that we've had people who are like, well, I just don't know what the age of the roof is. We can provide you some ideas on how to find that out, talking to landlords, etc. And then also when it comes to electrical wiring and plumbing, we want to make sure that those have been updated within the last 25 years. And this is another common question that we get. Like, well, what if the insurer doesn't have that information? Well, talk to the landlord, talk to the building owner. We're not a home for the lesser's risk only. I get that question every once in a while. We do just write the restaurant itself, but if they're renting the space, they don't know when things have been updated. Talk to those folks. They almost always have the information. And what's more is that sometimes, even if it hasn't been updated, but it's had a thorough inspection, it's all up to code, everything is good, we can still consider it even if the update was a little bit later. You're just going to have to reach out to us and chat about it. All right, fire sprinkler system is going to be just a rating question. All right, what's the total square area, BPP limits? Do they have building coverage, right? So we can do up to 5 mil in total insured value, right? Between the BPP and the building coverage. If they do not own the building, you will instead get a box for tenants improvements and betterments, which you can class as either the BPP or TIB. It doesn't matter to us which way you put it in, right? Just know that if you do it all in BPP, you'll have to at least hit 0 or else the system won't let you move on. It expects something to be in that box. The AOP deductible is pretty straightforward, all other perils. And then as far as property, wind and hail, this can be one of the trickiest portions because there's not a whole lot of user interface that goes around it. I'd love to see us have that a little bit more robust in the future. But the point of all of this is to say, whatever it is preset to, you cannot decrease it from, right? Or else you will get an error and the system will not allow you to carry on. So if I was to say no separate deductible, I would not be able to proceed with this quote. However, if I was to, because the default was at 1%, if I was to say 2%, 5%, or remove wind hail coverage altogether, not a problem. That's perfectly okay. So if this had come in and generated at 5%, then I wouldn't be able to do 2, 1, or no separate. I could only do remove or 5%. So hopefully that tracks. If you have any questions about it, please ask. But the reason is that we use a data vendor to help us understand some of that wind hail exposure. And that is all preset and something that is not adjustable on our end. And it's one of our very rare few hardline rules of like, hey, it has to be this or greater. All right. And then this is mostly a rating question. Every once in a while, you might get a kick out because of it. Like, for instance, is it attached to the habitational structure? That's still okay as long as the habitational is occupied by the GM or the owner of the restaurant and or the space is protected by a firewall. If I was to say no on both of these, I would get a rejection for it, right? But as long as one of the two of these is good, then we're still open to considering something that's attached to a HAB. We're not going to write the HAB itself, but if it's attached to it, we can still possibly consider it. And those questions go away if that's not one of the checks. All right, so we've gotten through most of the meat of everything now, and we get to do some optionals and discounts and stuff like that. So really briefly, I'll go over our primary package. This is something that, or I'm sorry, our premier package. This is something that a lot of you are going to be familiar with. Almost every market offers something like this, right? But what we're really happy with is like how much we're able to increase. There's lots of really great stuff here. Definitely take a moment to look through it all. But of note is all of these customizable ones too. And they're customizable whether or not you add on the Premier, because we realize that all restaurants are a little bit different and you need to be able to offer them exactly what it is that they need without anything additional. Now, most of this Premier, all of this Premier package is designed around the fact that restaurants are probably going to need it. But if for some reason you need to increase the limits, your insured is really hesitant to take that, but they know for sure they want contamination shutdown, like you have the option to customize that stuff. And I'll show you where to do that. Down here where it says, would you like to add additional coverages or customize any limits? You say yes, and then a drop down shows up where you can add any of those that you want to, yes or no. It asks limits, questions that are needed, that sort of thing. Of note also in our Premier package, automatically equipment breakdown coverage is included, right? So if you select no, you will get a new question that asks you whether or not you want to add on EBC. So just keep in mind that if you don't see EBC on here, that's why it's automatically included as part of the Premier. If for some reason that's the only reason you wanted the Premier, you could take it off and add EBC that way instead. EBC is written through, I got a neat little post-it note because I always have to remember which one goes with which. EBC is written through Mutual Boiler Re, which is obviously a very well-known name in the industry, a very reliable partner. And then we also offer CyberSuite and EPLI coverage through HSB, so Hartford Steam and Boiler, right? All of you, I'm sure, are well aware of these folks. We're very proud to be able to offer their products as well within our system, and it's seamless. If you select yes on any of this, we'll ask the questions that it is that we need to know in order to provide them with writing that package, but it's all part of it. You won't notice any difference. It'll be their forms that are on the policy, but it'll all be one package all together, just like it's one thing, because that's what it is. So just know that that's where those come from, and those are some great, reliable, long-time names in the industry. All right. Additional insureds. So these are restaurants. We realize that these are not, contractors where you're going to need an additional insured added every other day. So we don't charge you for the blankets. Just add them on. You might as well add them on to every single risk. There is no charge for adding on blanket additional insureds. If for some reason, as well as waiver of sub, if for some reason you want, individuals listed, if that's a requirement of your landlord or a bank or whatever, you've got that option too. You can say yes and select it, but still put on the blanket. You might as well. There's no charge. All right. So we'll continue on from there. Oh, and we can do all that stuff post-bind too. So if you need an additional insured, remember how we went to that endorsement screen? That's where you would request it, and then our team would take care of that for you right away. Discount screen. So this is obviously a great screen to be able to show you. We offer all kinds of discounts. Are they a part of an association? Do they maintain a Google profile? Are they a part of franchise? Do they have all of these like additional things that might deserve some credit? Lots of opportunities. And even if all of that fits or none of it fits, we have my favorite question in this entire process. Would you like to refer the submission to underwriting for additional pricing considerations? I love this because I've worked for InsurTechs before where you don't get that option. You have a chance here to say like, hey, this is the target price that I need. Here's why the insured deserves it. Save a ton of back and forth by, submitting it without asking that, coming back and asking for more credits, et cetera, which we will do. I mean, we're proud of the fact that we can be flexible and have those conversations. But this box is fantastic, I think, because you will find that a lot of other InsurTechs in the market just don't have that flexibility to ask you, okay, well, you tell us, what price would you like for this? And we love that interaction with our agents. We realize that you know the insured better than we do. So fill this out. Let us know if there's anything additional beyond what it is that's already being generated for the policy. All right. So effective date. This is where I mentioned briefly, you can do up to 60 days out. Just know that our quotes are only effective for that long. You're gonna have to reach out to us. Chances are you're probably gonna have to requote it if you go beyond that. But if it's a day or two, just let us know. We can unlock it for you. Um, so we'll leave it at that, August 19th. And then we have a few different payment options. You can pay monthly or pay in full. We are excited to offer you pay as you go down the road here soon. It's on hold for right now, but the reason it's built into the system is that we have it planning to come very soon. And so I'll just briefly explain it. Reach out if you have any questions, but the idea is similar to work comp, only instead of submitting payroll, you're submitting sales every single month. And then instead of charging you at the beginning of the month, we're charging the insured at the end of the month based off their sales, right? So that the idea is that it really helps some insureds with the seasonality and the fluctuation of like, hey, it's Christmas and we're in a mall and we get tons and tons of business. It's Mother's Day, we get all kinds of business. Or it's, the dead of October and nobody's coming around. And we're not, we don't think that we should have to pay the same amount that we do all the other months, right? So it's really great for that. It also helps with end of term audits as well. There wouldn't be a need for them because we've received sales all along the way. So just know that that will be an option that we're excited to offer you here soon. Otherwise, pay monthly is available right now, pay in full as well. 5% discount for every single state except for California. Do we have anybody on the call that lives in California? This is y'all's fault. California chose this. We tried to get it filed. California chose no 5% for us. All right, but just know that California is the exception to that. But otherwise, if you pay in full, you get a 5% discount, which is great, on top of all the other discounts that it is that we offer. And I've got even one more to show you, as a matter of fact. So you've gone through this whole process. Right now, we're calculating up a quote. We're letting you know that excess liability is available. And if you don't want that to be shown, you can just click the box and don't check it again. But here we've even generated an estimate for you on what it is that it might cost. It's a quote indication. And if you want to add it on, you can click this button for excess liability indication down here, fill out a really brief questionnaire about it, and our underwriters will get back to you about offering a quote on excess as well. But that said, you've got a real brief overview of everything. If for some reason this had declined or needs referred, like I showed you at the very beginning, there would be a box explaining what those reasons are. But a lot of times you're going to go through this process and the screen's going to look just like this and be ready to bind. And so when that happens, you can click this button to share the quote with your insured. And this is one of those areas in which I told you that, that email address is super important because what it does is it creates that account for them. They can log in, they can add their payment information. So if your agency doesn't like to collect payment in-house, they can do that remotely using this if you share the quote with them. Or you can download the quote yourself and send it yourself, and you don't have to use any of our share functions at all. You can have it presented from your own agency, however it is that you please, right? But it's a very robust quote, 33 pages long. I've yet to see a quote quite this long. However, there's a reason for that. We show you everything. We break down all the different coverages, the limits that are on it. We show you all the forms that it is that we're going to add. We talk about the fees associated with it. And we even go so far as to step by step show everything that was filled out as part of this quoting process too. So that then at the end, if you want to obtain it for your records, we don't need it. We don't need you to send that to us. We've got a signature block that you can have the insured sign off and say like, yep, everything looks great. This is what I wanted to protect your own E&O. Last thing to show you all is our Rainbow Rewards program. As if all of these discounts weren't enough, we also love to offer you Rainbow Rewards, which is just a quick upload of 5 photos. So we'll click the Apply Savings, upload these 5 photos of the different areas, hood and vent, dining room, bar, etc. And you can potentially have up to another 5% of a discount on the policy, right? If you can't collect those yourselves, here's yet another option to share the quote, send it out. The insured can upload those photos remotely. One big thing to note is that this must be done prior to binding. Okay, so we can't add this discount afterward. It has to be done prior to binding. So if you, are just thinking in your head, like, oh, I don't want to deal with photos later, I'll take care of it. Like, you're going to need to reach out to us. Like, maybe they don't have photos yet because they're still renovating, like we talked about earlier. You got to reach out to us, ask for some exceptions, talk it through with us about why we don't have the photos yet. And then we could potentially look at uploading them later. But regardless, it won't ever work if we don't put this discount on first. So just keep that in mind. But once you've added those, you can continue with discount and carry on with the binding just the same as before. All right, so that was a whole lot of talking, y'all. And I think I covered everything. Thanks for sticking through it. I think I saw Adrian yawn at some point. Shame on you, Adrian.
I'm out of coffee filters. I haven't been able to have coffee today. I blame
Shame.
that.
How dare you? And that's twice this week. I've had to say that to you now.
I don't know what to say.
That's fine. It's okay. I love you anyway. It's fine. Okay, so how did we go through all of that and not have any questions at all? That's
We did have
amazing.
some. We went in and answered them.
You're
I think one
stealing
of
my
the
fun from me.
I'm sorry. Very, very focused. I think one of the things that did come up though is we did have someone come in and ask a question about the 5 million max TIV. Good thing to point out is that's generally actually by location now, because generally we're writing single location policies. That makes perfect sense. You're not probably going to have a location. Well, if you do have a location over 5 million, that's probably going to need a referral, and we can see if we can make something work. But if you're doing one of those multiple locations, if you've got a chain of a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts, we love Dunkin' Donuts, they're great. You've got like 20 of them, and because there's 20 of them, you've got a TIV of the tens of millions, which, yeah, okay, very fair. That's going to go through a different process. That's going to be handled by us on our end as part of the manual review and rating process to figure out how we want to do that. But don't be afraid if you have a huge amount of locations with tons of TIV because of it. That's going to go through its own process. But if you got a single location that's over 5 million, that's going to need a referral. See if we can make that work. But generally, we want something a little lower.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that.
It was you, David.
Anything else before we wrap? We can always end early if there's no other questions. It's not an issue. Nipon, do you have any questions for our agents while you're here?
No. Just watching you conduct the webinar was like watching Beethoven do the Ninth Symphony. This was beautiful.
See, thank you. Thank you. Adrian never says that to me.
Wow. I'm just getting called out.
I know. I'm sorry, bud. Thank you, Nipon. That was very nice. Yeah, it happens when you've done it a few dozen times. But I love it though. Like this is, and I was telling you earlier today, Nipon, like, and I love to share this, like, this is one of my favorite times of the week. Like we all get together, we have fun doing this, but we get to interact with our agents, and that's why we're in the business here. That's why we're all doing this. Like we wouldn't work these jobs if we didn't love working with y'all. So the fact that you're here on the webinar, engaging with us, asking questions, that means the world to us because we love what we do. We love working with you. Keep it up. We're a brand new company. Keep asking us for new things. Like we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to do it based off of what you need and what you want, because you're the ones who we're selling through. We are only independent agents. So we're here. Let us know any suggestions that you have or anything that you ever need. We're looking forward to working with y'all. Anybody else?
Looks like Simon put, I guess, more of a comment in here. I have a lot of diners. Some have small charbroilers. Will any charbroilers warrant quarterly hood cleanings?
Yes. If they have any kind of charbroiling, they should really be following that kind of schedule of hood cleanings. It's just straight up, even if it's a tiny one, there's a lot of grease-laden vapors that come from that. We want to make sure that the hoods are being cleaned, so there's not as much of a risk of a fire. Fires are kind of part of the insurance business and part of the restaurant business, but we want to try and make sure that that risk is minimized.
Great question, though. Thank you. Yeah.
And Simon, I also just threw a link in the chat to our agent resources. So you can, if we get off this call and you forget what we said, or you want to check on something else, the NFPA cheat sheet is on there, and that'll be, that has all the information as well.
Yeah. I get off this call and I immediately forget everything I said.
Yeah, I mean, same. I can't even remember what I just said. So
that's good. Thanks.
I'm living in the moment.
That's why we record it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, we will consider 24/7. They can't sell alcohol though. That's the big thing. So it's not, like you're going to wind up interacting with us on that one. We like to review any that are 24-hour operations, but yeah, we can potentially consider it. Absolutely.
Quoted a bunch of 24-hour IHOPs just the other day.
Yeah. That's my go-to explanation now too. And did you know that some IHOPs sell alcohol? Yeah, so keep an eye out for that apparently. This was what I recently realized as we were going through that whole process because I touched them before they ever wound up with you. And yeah, apparently some of them sell beer with their pancakes. So
I mean, I can't blame them. Well, I don't drink beer, but if I was, I feel like that'd be a good pair.
I don't. I think that sounds disgusting. A lot of Coney Islands, their diners. Have you ran into any of those?
I
Not
think
off
so.
the- It might have been before I joined, but I think we've got a couple hanging out around here. We've certainly got a bunch of other diners of various types, various names, all calling themselves the world's best. Every diner thinks they're the world's best. I think it's like part of the marketing package you get as a diner.
Yeah, sure. That's not an issue. They typically do carry out only after a certain time. That's not a problem. You know, that'll just be part of the consideration. All right. Well, the questions are winding down. Yeah. Well, in that case, so Simon says, I'd love to talk more about those with underwriting. What's a great way to reach out to the two of you, Adrian and Nippon?
Yeah, so if you want to reach out to underwriting, go ahead and email us at underwriting@userainbow.com. That email comes directly to shared inbox with all the underwriters. We'll grab it, and then you'll get to talk with one of us over a long period of time through an email chain. Very exciting. We do also have a phone number that you can call that, through a line will eventually lead you to the underwriters. It's classic, email, classic phone selection, choose one to talk to these people.
Oh, it's not going to do it for me. All right,
No.
I'll type it in.
And that will also reach out to one of us and you'll get us on the line. You can also live chat in. Usually it's Jason or Naomi, but also this week it's been a lot of me. So you might also get me. You never know. But yeah, any of those ways are great ways to reach out to us. We're happy to help out.
Yeah, we love talking to y'all. All right. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Bye, see y'all.